Episode 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Daveismedia podcast. And I'm your host, Dave, and I am media. It's been a long time coming. I really wanted to do this podcast a long time ago, but honestly, life and work got in the way, so I'll keep those as my excuses. Right now, I'm recording in our creative space. I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I moved here about a year ago, and Max has transformed this building. He's transformed this building into this just amazing place where we can make content. I'm in what we call podcast room 2. 2 podcast rooms. We have a full psych wall, 15 by 20 feet. We have a set area. We have a front room for editing. We have another front room, which is called the vault. So I actually don't have an operator right now. I just hit record. I walked 100 feet back into the space. So here we are. This episode, I don't have a guest, so I was going to use this as an opportunity to give a little background on myself, to kind of pat myself on the back for my 10 plus years in professional filmmaking, video editing, photography, all that good stuff. I've been doing this a long time. Now, I may not look that old, but at 33, I've already had a full career in making media for other people. I've made a lot for myself, but really, I've done everything imaginable under the sun. I've worked on TV shows, I've made my own films, I've worked on films, I've been in films. I currently run all of Max's media. Max Maxwell, for those of you that don't know, Max Maxwell, he's a serial entrepreneur, real estate investor. He's one of my best friends. I run his day-to-day media operation on YouTube. So if you just YouTube Max Maxwell, you'll find him. You might catch me in a couple of videos too. But anyway, back to the podcast. My goal with this is I want to do 2 things. Number 1, I want to teach everyone a couple things each episode. That's my goal. Even if it's just me, I want to dive into some topics that maybe you don't know that much about, but I do. And the second goal is I want to have guests. I have tons of friends who owe me favors. So I'm hoping to bring on plenty of guests and make this show as interesting as possible. So in the first half, I'm going to give you a background on me. Second half, I'm going to answer some Q&A. I get tons of DMs, emails, text messages when people see me in person, like when I'm following Max around to all these conferences and his speaking engagements. People ask me, how do you make a YouTube channel? How do you start? How do you do this? How do you do that? So by me not doing this podcast, I was being very selfish, keeping all the good nuggets in my head and not sharing them with all of you. So this is me, Daveismedia, and here we go. All right, so a little background on me. I think I started like a lot of people in media. I was always picking up a camera, probably since about the age 14 to now. I've been using, I think my first camera was a Sony Hi8. It had these tapes. They weren't quite big enough to be a VHS, but they weren't small enough to be like a mini DV. So I'm getting a little nerdy for all of you camera people out there. But basically, I wanted to buy the camera because I was playing on this baseball team. It was like an all New England team, and we traveled from Portland, Maine to Tokyo, and we were in Japan for 10 days. And I said, man, I gotta capture this event. I gotta capture the essence of my trip. And so my dad helped me buy the camera. I think I washed some cars, mowed some lawns, typical middle-class suburban stuff. That was my way of making money. Oh, and I probably sold some baseball cards too. Shout out Gary V. I also used to sell lots of baseball cards at my dad's postcard shows, but that's for another day. So I saved up my money, went to Japan, and I was hooked. I mean, one of these episodes, since this is video and audio, I'm going to play back some of those clips because it was just like an amazing trip. The baseball was fun. You know, like we won, I think, more games than we lost. But really, that's hot. But really, I just enjoyed the culture. We got to stay with the host family. So that was cool in this, I think it was a suburb of Tokyo called Shinagawa. So we stayed with them, and I basically just, I filmed any chance I got. And then the cool thing was I handed the camera off to one of the players' parents, like one of my friend's moms or something. And there's footage of me playing baseball in Japan when I'm like 15. And that's cool. I think really the goal for me with media has always been, I want to capture life. I want to document all those moments that I can look back when I'm an old man and say, wow, look at me. I was young. I was, skinny. I'm still pretty skinny, but I was, super active. And I think that down the road, that's the payoff for me, is I'll be able to look back and catch some of these moments, some of the best highlights of my life. Okay, so I get that camera. That's like the beginning of high school. And then I basically was watching way too much MTV Jackass. And me and my friends in Stroudwater, shout out to 207, we would basically recreate all the sketches we saw on TV. So that's what my camera was used for. And then senior year, a lot of people don't know this, but I quit varsity basketball like right before the season started, and it was tough for me to do that because I love basketball, and I still love playing to this day. It's my favorite workout. I think it's one of the best all-around workouts because you kind of forget that you're working out. You're just playing a game. But what I did is I went to Coach Brown, who is like, people outside of New England don't know, he's like one of the most legendary basketball icons in New England. His son actually coaches the 76ers, Brett Brown. So anyway, I go to Coach Brown. I say, hey, I don't want to play this year. I don't got it. I'm burnt out, and I'd rather play baseball and then just play one sport senior year and enjoy my senior year. And he was disappointed. He didn't want me to stop playing. I would have made the team. I wasn't like the best player on the team, but I would have made the team and got some minutes here and there. So anyway, I decided to do that. I have to make money working at the go-kart track in Scarborough. So I'm from Maine, so a lot of these references are going to be Maine-based. So if you're not from Maine, just imagine that I'm living in Portland, Maine, and all these towns are kind of close by. So I'm working at the go-kart track, which is super fun, but I got to make money to pay for my car. All this time, I'm filming little videos here and there, doing projects in school. I'm basically inserting a video project into every one of my high school projects, even though nobody asked for it. I just said, I'll do the paper, but can I also make a video? And I remember I was super into like watching Steve Irwin, rest in peace, on TV. And we went to this fort in South Portland, another Maine town, and I would film with a couple of my buddies, Will Hinman and another high school buddy, and I would be the host, and I would do my worst Australian accent, and I would explore these old forts that were way out of commission from like World War II. And when I got into the editing room, I used to edit on the Pinnacle 8 editing software on my PC, like a tower PC, and it was really slow. So, some of you out there in media land don't remember, but you used to have to take the tapes and you would have to hook up this thing to your camera, and you would record it was like a yellow, red, and a white cable, and you would take this 3-prong cable, you'd plug it into this little adapter, and the adapter would go into like the mini DV port, or that little like power port, the AV port, on your camera, and you would have to real time record all that media onto a computer. Now at the time, hard drives were not that big, so you'd have to buy extra internal hard drives, put it in the back of the chassis of the computer, screw it in. Media was a problem. And this is like, 2002, 2003, so not that long ago. It is like 15 years ago or more, but I'm just saying, like, relatively so, not that long ago, in the 2000s. So anyway, I would take all this footage and I would start compiling it and editing it, and I just realized that I could tell stories visually. I wasn't a great artist, like painter, or I couldn't really draw, but I could frame up shots, and based on watching tons and tons of movies and TV, and I could figure out how to go from one place to another and tell a story. Like a lot of times it was linear, but it was cohesive. It made sense. And I just loved doing it. So I reached back out to Coach Brown, and this is like the end of senior year high school, or the end of basketball season. I said, hey, let me compile like a highlight tape. Because one of the things I loved doing was watching ESPN. I would plug in my TV to like this computer adapter recorder, and I would record highlights of SportsCenter, and I would cut my own edit of SportsCenter. I gotta find those tapes, they're somewhere. And so, but I said to Coach Brown, let me take all this footage from the team and cut it up and put some graphics. I had like the old school graphics. I do still have this tape somewhere. We will play it, I promise. And so he said, okay. So I compiled the footage. We had this one dude, Sean Costigan, and mad tall, mad athletic. He could dunk. So what I did is, basically every time he dunked during the season, it made it into the tape, like for sure. And I added some songs in there, like Shining Star by Earth, Wind and Fire. I thought that song was like amazing. Any other like typical like hype songs, like Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic. And I made this video, and I got to go to the banquet. So that was kind of cool because I had a ton of friends on the basketball team. Like in high school, I was friends with pretty much everyone. My graduating class was 125 people. I think I knew everybody by first name. But I got to show this video that I made at the banquet, and people loved it. And that was when I really got the hook. I got the bug of like storytelling, filmmaking, editing. I guess that was before they called us videographers, which is a fine name, but is not at all encompassing on what we can do. That's a story for another day. Anyway, it goes well. It wasn't a paid gig. I did get to eat dinner with everybody, and I got like a free jacket, like a windbreaker for like golf. It was pretty sick. People liked the video, and that's when I realized maybe I could make this a career. I definitely should have asked for money, but I was in high school. I wasn't thinking that way as far as my creative part. Now I would still like sell baseball cards and mow lawns, and I would hustle on the side, but I wasn't thinking that my videography could be a career. So high school, fast forward, I go to college, first 2 years business school, and then I revisit videography again. And I'm out in California, and I take this class, Com 30, and I love it. And I edit photos to music, and it was like Kanye West, Touch the Sky. And I just took a bunch of selfies before they called him that. I'm dating myself again. Of myself, just with a flash, and I would cut them to the right? So like the hi-hats, and I was like, oh, I can just it's just syncopated editing. So everywhere you would see the waveform of the song, of the beat in the timeline, and I would look and say, okay, I'm gonna put a different picture. It was almost like animation, like stop motion, but I just took a series of photos, and that was like my first project. And I did well. I think I got an A on that. So again, encouraged me to keep going. I took Comp 31. After that, I was just hooked. I met Mike Whalen. Shout out to my guy, Professor Whalen at Santa Clara, who taught me like everything I needed to graduate and then go get a job in film and video. So I graduate, only 3 weeks go by. I say only because that was the only time I've been unemployed since 2009. And so this is like, June, July 2009, I get a job at Xilinx. My first task at this company, because the job was for video marketing specialist. So I'm thinking, great, I get to do video marketing. I'm working in the marketing department. I'm gonna get to shoot and edit. I'm gonna get to buy some gear. This company makes like billions of dollars. Excuse me. This company makes billions of dollars. So my first task though is not shooting videos. My first task is to list every old, so there's on the first floor of this building at my new company at Xilinx, there's this old studio. It's got like Betamax, Beta SP tapes, these huge like Panasonic with Fujinon lens cameras, like giant broadcast cameras that have no business being there, but they were in there because the company would shoot all their internal messaging with the CEO in-house. And I thought, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what everybody should be doing. But you know, like the dot-com bubble burst in like 2000, and then there was kind of that 2008 recession for real estate and some other things. So they had basically done away with the program and were hiring out different companies to come in and shoot video until they hired me. Because about a year later, I was like 23, 24, I took over that whole department. But back to my first task, it was to take photos and take down the serial number of every piece of equipment in that old studio and then put it on eBay. And luckily I had my guy John, who worked with me there, he did most of the eBay transacting and communication, but I guess they were testing me to see if I could do the mundane work. And you know, I'm gonna stop there on my background and fast forward to now, because there's a lot of great stories that I can tell, and I want to throughout the podcast, but I don't want to cram them all into one episode. So now I'm in the creative space, Max's space. You know, it's our space, but Max revitalized it. He owns it. I do work with him. And it's all because I think back when I was 14, 15, I picked up a camera. I never really put it down. Even if I wasn't doing that as my job all the time, I've always been using a camera. And since I graduated college, the only thing I've been doing is making content. And I just love making content. And that was really the purpose of making this podcast, is I want to share my passion for content creation with the world. I want other people to come on and share their similar passion for why do they make media? Why are they involved in this industry? Even if they're not the ones that are actually doing the editing or the shooting. Everybody has a role in making content, whether you're a one-man team or you're a team of like 30, you know, like Gary Vee's team. He's got like 30 plus people just making content for Gary Vee. Somebody I met who we will talk about in future episodes. And we're going to get him on here. I guarantee we will get him on here. I will not stop until he's on the podcast. Met him a couple times, chill dude. But I wanted to do this podcast because I talk about media all the time and in my work, but I don't get a chance to talk about it in my downtime as much because a lot of my friends aren't in this industry, so we just talk about, you know, regular life or, you know, making money in business or, you know, family. But media doesn't come up in this detailed way as much in my life. So that's kind of the short of it. I've always been shooting, and then 3 weeks after I graduated college, I get this job. I do corporate video all the way up until now, and a lot of other fun stuff in between. But it's, you know, really, it's fulfilling to me that I can get paid to tell stories. And I think the most important thing in all of human civilization is storytelling. From the caves in Lascaux, France, you know, cave paintings and drawings till now, we've been passing on stories. And it's the one thing that will stand the test of time. Is maybe not all our stories, but some of our stories will get passed along through generations onto whatever civilization looks like in the next 1,000 years, you know, if the world is still turning. So I always say that the best job is, I think it's storytelling. I really do. Everybody needs it. It may not always pay the best, but if you're really good at telling your story, you can make the most money. And I think Max has been proving that. He tells a fantastic story. It's just himself. Everybody is unique, and everybody has their own story to tell. I'm just fortunate to be along for a lot of people's rides, but I didn't want to only be a sidekick. I wanted to make sure I paved my own road and created my own lane, and that's why we have this podcast here. So that's a quick introduction about me. As you can tell from a few of these quick stories, I literally am media. My @handle is a perfect descriptor of who I am. And a lot of people DM me on Instagram, on Facebook. If people can track down my phone number, they call me. They ask me questions about how I do what I do, how they can tell their stories, how to use social media, how to use cameras, what cameras to buy. I always get that question, what is the best camera for me? That is a Pandora's box. But we're gonna open the box a little bit in the next segment and just talk about answering some questions. I'm gonna pull up some questions on the computer and we'll get into that shortly. What's up, podcast? It's Dave. I wanted to let you know I have a YouTube channel. So if you're already seeing this on YouTube, no duh, this is just an ad for the podcast. I'm in the creative space right now. I'm actually editing my first episode right in here. So if this is past episode 1, hey, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt as episode 1, so it's just a look back. Anyway, go check out my vlog on YouTube. I do travel vlogging. BTS of working with my man Max Maxwell, all kinds of great stuff on there. Go check that out. And if you're a sponsor, this could be your ad spot. Right now I don't have a sponsor because this is my first episode. So anyway, sponsors out there, this is your ad spot. All right, back to the podcast. All right, we're back. Had to grab a water and check my Instagram. Not to scroll, but I wanted to get some good DMs. Some good questions. So let's start. I don't need my messages for this, but the first question I think that most creators get is, what camera am I supposed to buy? So that's probably the most difficult question because people's level of skill, first of all, is all over the map. Some people have used cameras before, but most people haven't. So just to simplify this answer, I usually say you should get a DSLR just to start. So here I've got, for people listening, you can't see, but I've got my 5D Mark IV, which is, I would say, very advanced for your first camera. Shoots 4K. I got it for Christmas. I needed another tax write-off, but I love this thing. It's actually really amazing for vlogging. So if you are further along, this with the Tokina 11 to 16 millimeter is amazing. And you get the Rode mic, video Rode, it's like $70. So this package right here, it's probably gonna run you about $2,500 if you got a good deal. So a DSLR, that's the place to start. You know, my first camera was a Canon T2i, and I still have that camera. I actually gave it to my dad so he could take photos up and down the Maine coast. So the T2i was great. I think I spent like $500. I remember I got a bonus at work, and I spent the money, half of my check on that T2i. And then the cool thing was I bought a lens, and I basically offset the whole purchase because I purchased this camera to shoot my first music video with one of my good friends, Lacey J. Shout out to Alicia, wherever you're at, in LA or in the Bay, I'm not sure, but we shot this music video in downtown Los Gatos, California, and I shot it on a T2i, a camera that still runs, that's still great. I did a magic lantern hack for those of you camera nerds out there. Basically, you risk bricking your camera. Bricking your camera means you run some firmware on it, and firmware is essentially you take your SD card. I'm trying to break this down for everybody. So the SD card that you record your footage to, you plug that into your computer, you download some firmware, which is kind of like software, but it runs behind everything in the camera. You insert it into the camera, and there's like this specific, I think it's like 10 steps how to do it. Put that in, and you can bypass all of the consumer limits that have been put on the camera. And so I figured, well, I only spent $500 on this camera. If it does brick, I could get another one. And it would suck because I'd have to spend another $500, but it's not the end of the world. It's not like a $50,000 camera, right? Put it in perspective. So I did that, and it opened all kinds of options for me. It had manual sound, manual iris. Basically, you want to get rid of all the automatic functions. But back to the question that I'm over answering. What camera should you buy? I would buy probably a T6i, something in the Canon series, maybe an 80D. I told my friend Scott to get an 80D and then get, a 24 to 105. That's probably the cheapest red ring L glass for Canon. I'm a Canon guy, so I always recommend Canon cameras. And then you need a battery and a card and a Rode mic. And if you're doing lots of audio recording, I would recommend getting the best kit is the Sennheiser AVX lavalier mic. And then it's got an attachment that goes right onto your camera, right on the top in the hot shoe. And you can get this little, mic jack that converts the XLR to a tinier mic jack. Or you can just plug it straight into a Zoom H6. All right, so basically you get your DSLR, lens, you need a microphone, and you need a way to record audio if you're not recording to the body. All right, what other questions do we have? Let's go to the text messages. Got one from Richard, and he asked me, so he said he changed all his social media. We had a conversation on the phone the other day because he's getting started telling his story because he was at Max's event, Wholesaling Elite Live 20 in Atlanta, and he said, I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm just not sure if I should start. And he gave us like a 5-minute testimonial on how amazing the conference was. And I said, the way you speak, you have to be telling your story. You just need to. I'm interested in it, and I really don't do anything in real estate besides shoot content. I'm like, so I want to hear what you have to say. So he asked me, he goes, he changed all his social media to the same name, and he wanted to use his first name, but there was too many characters for Twitter. I said, okay. And he said, should I keep the same for YouTube? Basically, he's asking, should I keep the same name across all platforms? And the answer is a resounding yes. When I got Daveismedia, I don't know if that was probably like 2009 when I first really got on Twitter. I tried to put it everywhere. So I tried to do Daveismedia Facebook, and then I did Daveismedia Instagram as soon as Instagram came out. So I try to do the same thing everywhere, because if somebody looks you up on Google, you want that same name popping up. You don't want them to have to be like, oh, well, it's like Disco Dave 1 on Twitter and Daveismedia on Instagram and Dave Harding Photography on Facebook. Like, there's too many. So if you can keep that name uniform, that is like the best thing you can do. Let's see, another one. Okay. What do you recommend for a podcast setup, and how do I go about treating a room? Okay, so that was a little more of a specific question, but basically I'm in a really well sound treated room. So besides the hot air that's pumping in that you may hear slightly in the background because it's like 20 something degrees outside, and I'm keeping the heat on today, absolutely. It's really sound treated. We have these panels behind me. Me and my brother, no joke, we filled a closet with egg crates, like the industrial egg crates you get at a restaurant, in high school to record vocals for local rap artists, and we believed it worked. I'm pretty sure it didn't really do that much. It was not absorbing any kind of sound, but the idea is it absorbs the reflection of your voice of whatever sound is being projected, and it kind of dies on the wall. And that's what you want. You want to get rid of the reverb. You want to be able to add reverb later. So the best thing you can do is not have a really echoey space or tall ceilings. You want to go into a room, like that's why there's so many bedroom DJs and so many people start their podcast channels and YouTube channels in a bedroom, because the sound is good. And honestly, we have put up mattresses to create a makeshift vocal booths, and those kind of work pretty well. You can also buy sound blankets, ton of stuff you can buy on Amazon if you just look up sound dampening, sound design, sound accessories for a studio. But setting up, like a room for podcasting, you want a good mic. This is probably the best mic you can get, the Shure SM7B Mic. Fantastic mic. You get a couple lights with soft boxes that I have just off camera. And I'm using like a really amazing camera, Panasonic 4K Professional. It's actually one that Max bought when we were in New York at B&H. I wanted to try it out because we have these PTZ cameras all around me, but I just haven't been super happy with the look. And only because I've been doing this professionally over 10 years, I think actually, like 11 years now. Do I care so much about the look? But you could do it all just with your cell phone. I've made plenty of great content on my cell phone, and I think that's a place to start. Are you on TikTok? Yes, I am. At Daveismedia. I'm on TikTok. I made one TikTok. My most popular one has like over 60,000 plays, and it was really a stupid video. I was at the Cincinnati airport, which I think is technically in Kentucky. And I made this video. There was like a bank, like a power bank, where you could like put your phone in like a little locker, and it was like, this whole like thing. It looked like one of those Best Buy machines where you can buy equipment, buy electronics. And right next to it was like literally 12 plugs. So all you had to do was just go to the right and plug it in, because they were charging you on the left. They were charging you to charge. So I did this camera move where I showed that. Then I went to the side and I showed the free empty banks of power. So I'm not on TikTok all the time. I know Zeke, our bull rider, Ezekiel Mitchell, he's always on TikTok. You should follow him at the Blue Mitchell 90, I think it is, on TikTok. He loves TikTok. It's just endless scrolling. I like it. It's entertaining, but mostly I'm on Instagram, barely on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Those are really my three main social media hangout spots. Let's see, another question. Where are you going next on your travel vlog? Okay, so I do a travel vlog. I've done 2 episodes, about to do the 3rd one. And that one's going to be about behind the scenes at We Live, which is back to Atlanta. So I think that's back-to-back Atlanta vlogs. I might change it up and do a New York one. I'm not sure. I'm always overthinking and like planning all my videos. I think there's some talk that we're going to go to South Carolina. Not sure. I know that's like only 1 state away from North Carolina, but I'm gonna go to Kiawah Island, a place I've actually been. I went there on New Year's back in 2012 into 2013, I believe. That was a fun trip. Saw a Duke basketball game at Cameron Indoor. Recommend you do that. That's an amazing place to watch sports. I'm not sure. That might be it. We might be going to St. Louis next weekend to go catch the bull ride, the U.S. Border Patrol Invitational. Go see Zeke ride. It's been since, I think, New York City. We haven't been since the opening weekend at Madison Square Garden to see Zeke ride. So that would be fun. All right, what's another one? Anything you do in your downtime outside of video creation? Yes. I just got a Nintendo Switch at a deep discount from my friend Sam Go. Shout out Sam Go. Shout out Nintendo. And it's fun. It's like $20 a year. You can get that membership, and it gives you it's an online membership, but it gives you access to all these Super Nintendo games and all these regular Nintendo games. I remember probably the greatest Christmas of all time, and my brother remembers this too, is we got an N64 with GoldenEye and like Mario Kart, and all we did the whole day, and the South Park game, was we just played N64 probably the entire weekend that Christmas. I don't even remember. That was like 97, 98. I think it was 98. Great Christmas. So back on the Nintendo. I only play it when I literally have nothing else to do. So like on the go, on the plane, I'll play some Nintendo Switch, Super Mario World. That's where I'm at right now. And then I was getting my car fixed the other day, so I was playing some Nintendo Switch. So I think there's one more question in here. One more question. Let's check the YouTube. I've been, one of my biggest kind of like pet peeves of my own is I've been just bad about consistency on YouTube. And this is an excuse, but it's probably the most legitimate excuse, is because I'm running somebody else's YouTube channel and my job is to be making content. I just haven't been focusing enough on my own. I have plenty of downtime to do it, but you do get kind of burnt out if you're just making content for other people and for yourself, and you put the other people first because that's what pays you. So until this pays me, I can't put it first. But then again, I have to, take it into consideration and make it just as important. So it's a tough balance. So if you really love making media and you love making content, you gotta try to make it happen. So while I'm looking for this comment, because I don't have a ton, I'll be super honest, I have 170 subscribers right now on YouTube. So if you're out there and listening to my podcast, go subscribe. Just search Daveismedia. That's Dave and then IS and then media on YouTube. Go smash the like button, hit the bell, you know what to do. Turn on notifications and subscribe and check out my content. Let me know what you think. Through YouTube, I met a very interesting individual who is called Super Intern Matt, otherwise known as Mateo when he gets a haircut. He reached out to me in 2016. 176 subscribers. He reached out in 2016 because I was vlogging more regularly, probably because I was freelancing and didn't really have a job, and so I had all this time. And he said, "Hey man, do you have a studio? And if so, like, can I come hang out? Where is it?" And he lived in Brunswick, Maine. I was in Saco at the time at the studio, and I said, "I mean, yeah, of course, like." That'd be great. And so he comes by. He's like 18 years old at the time, so now he's 22, and he's saying, yeah, there's like no other, I think there was like one other popular YouTuber in Maine. By no means am I a popular YouTuber, but he found my content because my friend JR, your favorite homie JR, he would follow his content, and then he saw me in some of JR's stuff, so he started following my videos. If you go down the rabbit hole, that's how he found me. And he said, it was cool to see somebody else just, vlogging, making content. From there, I hired him on a shoot-by-shoot basis to help me. I was doing this project with David Ortiz. Shout out Big Poppy! I was doing this project with David Ortiz, and it was a cookbook. So it was one of those things where I hustled through Craigslist. I was on Craigslist, just understand this. For a year, you can ask anybody who was hanging around me at the time. For a whole year, in 2016 into 2017, I was on there in the morning for an hour and at night for an hour. And I would look on all the listings in New England for gigs, for creative jobs, for full-time jobs, part-time, in New York, New England, Maine, even LA, because like if there was a high enough paying gig, I have friends in LA, I would check San Francisco. All the markets I had a network, I would check. I was on Craigslist 2 hours a day, every single day, because I didn't have a job, so I needed that freelance money. I would take weddings. I shot footage for some guy's short film that I don't think ever got made, but he paid me cash. Anybody who would pay me cash, I would go do that, because you have to. Cash is king. But all the while, I got hired on this gig to shoot with Troy Brown, receiver for the Patriots. Everybody in New England, Troy Brown, TB80. And that was really cool. I met a lot of great people that day. I met Tara and Margaret from Goodwin Group. Shout out Goodwin Group. They gave me tons of work. Love them. I love y'all ladies. Y'all are the best, some of the best in PR. They're in Foxborough, Mass. I worked with them for a long time. But that day, that first shoot, I met them. The producer, Sue, who hired me after that, said, yeah, this went great. I'm actually doing a whole book, and I have like 80 more athletes. And I was like, what? So being a kid in New England, growing up, you know, I got to meet people on this shoot like Pedro Martinez, who was like I idolized as a high school baseball pitcher. I got to meet Pedro Martinez, and I was getting paid. I met Big Papi, got to hang out with him and his dad and a bunch of people in his circle. Got to meet Ray Bork, Andre Tippett, Hall of Fame linebacker for the Patriots. Met Bill Belichick. The list goes on and on. Anyway, I am published in this book. I'm on the spine of the book. I'm on the cover. I even have my photo in the book. It's called Cooking with the Pros. David Ortiz presents Cooking with the Pros. So probably the coolest day was when we got to go to New York City, Matt and I. Matt had to drive down with the producer from New England. I had flown there. No, I was working there, and so I just stayed a little longer. I was working with BevNet. Shout out John Craven. What's up? And we stayed at the Ritz-Carlton because we got to interview Bill Russell. This man is a living legend. I also went to a West Coast Conference School, USF, so I got to talk to him about that a little bit. But Matt was there all because he reached out on YouTube from a YouTube comment that I responded to, because when you're a small channel, you need to respond to everybody. Not that you need to hang out with everybody who asks, but he seemed like a chill guy. I looked him up. He had a channel. He actually said he had a YouTube channel since he was like 11. So Matt's my guy. Love Matt. He does a lot of great work. Great graphic artist. You know, he's a valued member of the team. He did his thing at the event last week in Atlanta. Shout out to Mateo. Hope you're listening. I'm gonna make you listen to this, so I know you're listening. And yeah, so that's kind of the power of social media and comments, and that's why I read all my DMs that I get, and it's more regular now. Honestly, working with Max, I get a lot more people hit me up. How do you guys make videos? How do you and Max, you know, make content, think of what to make, do the podcast regularly and the vlog? We do like 2 to 3 videos a week. It's you know, it's definitely a lot. But anyway, let me get back to the comment. So somebody wanted to ask, how do you like the Inspirato Pass? Well, first of all, Max has the Inspirato Pass, not me. But I will happily travel with Max everywhere he wants me to go because the Inspirato Pass is super dope. So basically it's $2,500 a month, which some people might be like, dang, that's a lot. But some of these houses that you get to go to, and there's a full list of them, they would rent for like $11,000, and you get the same house for $2,500. Sleeps up to like 8 to 10 people, something like that. We went to Mexico in December, and we just like absolutely balled out. Super fun. We stayed in Puerto Vallarta, and there was this it's this whole compound. So I flew the drone every morning. Tons of sick drone footage. We went out on a boat, went to Sayulita town, which looked a lot like the town in the Disney movie Coco. So if you've seen Coco, it had all these like multicolored flags. Banging street tacos, just super good. Went to the pool, went to the beach. Pool at the house was dope. The house honestly was dope, but I love Inspirato Pass. Anybody who loves to travel, Max and I have this thing where it's 21/7, 21 straight days of work, and then we take 7 straight days off. We do take days off. It's just that we work on the weekends, as Drake would say, working on the weekends as usual, right? That's what we do. So there's a balance. It's just not like everybody else's balance. 21/7. So if you travel every month, Inspirato Pass, I absolutely recommend. I absolutely recommend Inspirato Pass. It's amazing. The properties are amazing. So we did it in New York too when we needed a hotel for the PBR event. Max said, "Oh, well, I'll just use Inspirato Pass. I'm already paying for it. We might as well not pay extra money for a hotel in New York City." So that was convenient. Again, trying to do South Carolina, Kiawah Island, trying to get one of those properties. So I think that's gonna do it for the Q&A. I'm gonna load up some more questions next time. That was just kind of impromptu, seeing what was sitting in my DM. Maybe not unread, but I'd read it a couple days ago and wanted to share it with all of you. So we're gonna do more Q&A. Let me know what else you want me to do in the podcast. It's new for me doing a solo pod. Well, it's not totally new. I take that back. But this is going to be my podcast. I'm not going to have a co-host. A lot of people don't know, I had a 2+ year running fairly popular podcast with one of my best friends, Ryan Siriaco, who he's a LA native, huge Dodger fan, now lives in Cleveland. Him and I were so good at recording our audio and syncing the podcast up for production that for like 12 to 20 episodes, a lot of our fans thought we were in the same room. And at the time, I think we started it when I was living in San Jose. And then when I moved to New York City, we were literally 3,000 miles apart recording the podcast. And then when we put it out, we got our timing so good that it sounded like he was sitting across from me in the same room. So shout out to Ryan. I hope you're well. He has 2 beautiful kids and his wife Samantha. I have seen them like a couple times in the last couple of years. Like, we really keep in touch. It's funny because he was one of my like pure internet friends. We were doing this MLB fan cave contest, and through that we both made our video kind of pitching why we should be on the fan cave. Spoiler, neither of us made it really far in the rounds, but we became the best friends. And so, that was really cool. And I love that we can still keep in touch, again, all through a media platform. And we made our own podcast. And, I had to end it. I was just so busy doing stuff. We've been trying to get something going. So I'm going to have him on the pod because I want to talk more about the IOC podcast. Anybody listening now who listened to the IOC podcast knows it was all baseball all the time. I'm a huge Red Sox fan and a huge Dodger fan, so we had the AL and the NL covered. It was awesome. It was really fun recording a podcast and being very guerrilla style with it. Really good times. Went to the All-Star game in Cincinnati. That was in 2015, right? Yeah, 2015 summer. We met Dave Winfield because Ryan has a connection to Dave Winfield, Baseball Hall of Famer. Got to have him on the IOC podcast, and then our boy Adam made the trip too, so he got to like help us create the pod. He's been just such a chill dude, and he was a longtime listener because he was one of Ryan's best friends in college, and so getting to meet him has been cool. So media will expand your network. It will expand your social network and your real life network, your real life social network. So that's definitely probably the biggest benefit. Is I don't see anything wrong with social media. It just exposes who you are. And if you're a good person, it will show the world that you are truly a good person. So I think that's where I'm going to wrap up for episode 1 of the Daveismedia podcast. Everywhere you're listening, please give me a 5-star rating. If you like the podcast, obviously. If you didn't, maybe just don't leave me a rating. You don't need to give me a 1-star. And leave me some feedback. Let me know. That stuff helps. It helps in the rankings. This is obviously my first podcast. So if you're just jumping in and this is like a year down the road, get ready for some awesome interviews. I'm going to interview as many friends as I can think of. I'm going to interview people in media. Max Maxwell, my man, trying to get Gary Vee on here. I've got tons of great stuff in store. This is just the first episode. So please subscribe, like, and smash the notifications bell on YouTube because this is going to both places. And with that, I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.